Let me tell you a little bit about yesterday. Yesterday, I was in the middle of a meeting, and then some appliances were delivered to the house. And turns out that the appliance delivery people did not want to actually install the appliances and would not leave the appliances with me if I didn't get out of my meeting, walk over, and figure out how to detach a copper wire. Well, while doing that, I was also trying to figure out how do I make a wind turbine for my 7-year-old, and how do I sew together the little stitches of the arm of the doll that was coming off for my 5-year-old. My meeting was still going on during all of this. And so it turns out that I am both an entrepreneur, a seamstress, an electrician, a plumber, and a master of physics. Welcome to the reality of parenting during the pandemic or the great pause, but I'm not sure anybody gave me the memo that we were meant to be taking a pause. Um, Today we are talking about the now not invisible, but the very visible burden of being a woman. Joined on our couch today, I have Janelle Lynch, the CEO and founder of Executive Doula Agency. I have Jennifer Masker, the CEO and founder of Master Recruiting. And I have Nat Stratton Clark, the founder. And you have to tell me, Nat, do you actually cook and bake as well? Of a chain of restaurants in Seattle, Washington, one of my favorite being Cafe Fleur. Good morning, everyone. Janelle, tell me, as a founder of a company that really focuses on the conditions for women in the workplace, women who are either taking leave in order to prepare for the birth of a little one or trying to create plans for coming back, what has this unique moment in our collective history taught us?
Ooh, where do I start?
Pull up a chair, everyone.
Right, exactly. I think we have learned, one, that we can do more than what we already thought we could do. I think by nature, women are defined as these multitaskers. But in your intro, as you just kind of alluded to, we are now teachers, mothers, nurses, guitar teachers, we're doing like everything. And so we have learned to make that pivot while also caring for our family, as making sure everyone's healthy. COVID is at the forefront. So while trying to do all these things and maintain some sort of normal life, we've had to take in all these roles, which added, as we talked about, a layer of stress that I think none of us were prepared for. And we're still working through it.
Yes. I was reading an article and they said that there's a projected $523 billion risk of women's response psychologically, their anxiety response to this. Is that something that, well, let me ask you this. You're a mother of 4. How do you relate to that?
So that's actually fairly accurate to everything that's coming out across the board as far as it relates to all of it, mental health issues, whether it's maternal mental health, depression, baby blues, anxiety, and how it impacts productivity. And as we know, women are very productive in the home, in the office space, and how all of this is going to impact that. Whether people have to go back to work and figure out how they're still gonna manage children in or out of school. If they're telecommuting has also become a high level of stress for people, like you said, who are still trying to do work. And you have kids running around in the background and you're trying to keep them occupied at the same time. Oh, and by the way, you're getting things coming to the house. So the level of anxiety alone, everyone has noted, has been high, and just trying to figure out how people are going to deal with that. As much as we're putting emphasis on the physical health of everyone, we also have to pay attention to the mental health issues that are going to spring up with all of this.
Yes, yes. Jennifer, you speak a lot about this in terms of your company and particularly in helping women leaders who want to really take their career to the next level. And you were a single, well, you are a single mother of two. How have you seen this shift in terms of women in the workplace, even just a couple of years ago, to now what companies should be expecting as we come out of this and return to our workplaces?
Loaded question. It's kind of twofold. So companies that I've been working with and consulting with, teaching them how to ask different questions, different attitudes, and different means of how they're trying to get to hire and why they're trying to get to hire. And they don't know how because they're not used to it. Educating them on how to onboard people because it's going to be remote. And how do you do that? And then asking those clarifying questions of, are you comfortable doing it remote? Are you comfortable learning how systems work, not knowing that you're in a culture that you're even familiar with or want to be in if and when we go back to some type of normalcy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then on the flip side, when you're an individual looking to change careers, how do you know it's the right company if you can't go in there and touch and feel everything? If you can't meet everybody? Video is great, but it doesn't give you the full sense of meeting them face to face and reading their body language and how they think about different things. So there's a lot of different conversations that need to go on that nobody's prepared for.
Yes, yes. Why is it that we have still in our work cultures a tradition of, and let me name my bias here potentially, but a tradition of when men are seen to be multitasking with their careers, with their home life, they're rewarded. They're given a pat on the back of doing all this extra work. But women are just expected to juggle all of that without ever letting us see the strain of taking all of that on.
It's what everybody eludes themselves.
Say that again?
I think it's what the expectations are there. We don't have a lot of men individuals that we can look at and say, they did it all, why can't we? We have a ton of role models as women. I mean, you look at Janelle and you as a case, that we have done it all because we don't have a choice. Mm-hmm. Until somebody else steps in, our choice is thus. Take care of the kids, take care of ourselves, take care of the job, take care of the family, take care of outside events, and still have a family. Yeah. We don't have role models in the male world that can showcase how to do it all. We only have role models for women. Thankfully, we have that. And I don't really see a lot of men wanting to step up. If the woman in my life is going to do it, then I'm going to let her.
That's it. You know, one of the things I think society has put a low expectation on men as far as their involvement. And because of that, there's this stigma around men who do well at home, at home and taking care of the kids and at work, and they're involved in the community. Me and my husband always have this conversation about men being more vocal about how much they actually do and how involved they are, even on social media, showing that, so that we kind of start to erase that stigma around it. Because it's almost, I hate to use the word balance, but we've set the expectation for men here and the women here. And it's a stigma here that it's not cool if men are doing too much or they're seen taking too much parental leave, after their wife has had a baby. So I think we definitely have some work to do around that part.
And Nat, can you jump in there, because you've actually been doing some of that work? And can you tell us a little bit about the story you have of being on an airplane with your darling Erin and what you noticed?
Absolutely. So we have 2.5-year-old twin girls who are amazing. And we, I think, ignorance is bliss, thought it was a great idea to take them to England on a 9-hour flight when they were about 6 months. And we did it because we wanted them to meet their great grandmother, which was amazing and worth it. But wow, it turned into a 17-hour journey. Each of us with a baby strapped to us for basically 17 hours. And, as I was walking, doing the walk, right, around, doing the laps, bouncing the kids, I mean, I can't tell you the number of people that stopped and just said, "You were such an amazing father. This is, it's amazing that you're doing this." And when Erin was doing laps, nobody's talking to her. Nobody's giving her that same praise, because it's just expected that she's going to be carrying the kid around the plane. It's just expected that she's going to be, giving them bottles while, trying to get a diaper out of the diaper bag, while trying to also do something else. But when I'm doing it, I'm getting, people are stopping not only me to give me praise, but stopping her to tell her, "Oh, you're so lucky." Which, I mean, it's just, to me, it was just, it's disappointing how little is expected of fathers. Because I agree, we just need to raise the level of expectation about what it means to be a parent.
Yes. And, I was so, I don't know if the word is empowered, but you were sharing the story of before your transition, your experience of, as a child, thinking about motherhood and everything that was going to be, and then realizing that now you were going to be seen through this lens of fatherhood, and knowing that you didn't want to fall into those stereotypes. Have you noticed that other people are like, "Well, you don't have to do so much"? Like, what is that journey like?
Absolutely. I mean, for me, I transitioned when I was in my 20s, and as we talked about before, for me, one of the hardest parts was I always wanted to be a parent. That for me was something I knew from when I was a kid, and what that had always looked like was being a mom. And I had all of these preconceived notions about, oh, well, I have to give up motherhood and then become a father, and that means I'm not going to get to be as involved, or I'm not going to get. And it really was a really good self-check and questioning of, well, what does it mean to be a parent? Because that's really what it should be about. And I can do all of the same things that I had thought I was going to be able to do. And it's just going to look a little different. That being said, society definitely views it very differently. And the conversations I have with other parents they're so surprised. They're like, "Well, oh, but your work is so hard, so your wife must stay home and take care of the kids." It's like, no, she works full-time. Her job is just as important, just as challenging. And even if she was staying home with kids, that is also, frankly, more challenging, staying home with 2.5-year-olds. So it really is. And really understanding that childcare is hard work. It is constant.
Yes. And Jennifer, can you speak to, as a single mother who, in your story, you'll often speak about the experience of being a single mother and at times even on food assistance. Do you think that there's even more erasure of that story, that within workplaces, not only are we not noticing the invisible burden of women, but then add to that being a single mother? Did that have an extra amount of stress?
I'm sure it did. If it happened to me, I was not aware of it. You get into a stage of being not necessarily robotic, but I mean, I was always good. How do you handle work, and how do you handle the kids, and how do you handle the activities? And my response was always the same: you just do it. So when we were down and out, it's called building character to your kids. Yeah, they were in line with me at the food bank, because if I have to be in line with them and I have to feed them, then they're going to be in line with me. And it built character. And so, is it stressful for 90% of all the people? Yeah. Was it stressful for me? I'm sure it was. I didn't have time to show it or be it, though, because my only activity was to get the job done, to make sure things were taken care of. And if that meant asking for help, then I asked for help. And swallow your pride, because there's absolutely nothing wrong with asking for help, which in turn taught my kids to do the same thing.
Mm.
Why don't we ask for help more, Janelle?
And we need to at all levels, regardless of your socioeconomic status or level you're at. We all need to ask for help. One thing I want to piggyback off of real quick that Jennifer mentioned, and this is for men and women, we a lot of times get into this mode of survival. And I feel like that's where a lot of people are right now, instead of thriving. You know, she was saying, you know, sometimes you don't even recognize the situation you're in. You're just kind of going through the motions, taking care of the kids, feeding the kids, making sure you're paying the bills, and you're in survival mode. And you're not reflecting in to figure out how you can thrive up out of that. And that's actually, you know, this is my personal mission, is to help more parents thrive, not only in the workplace, but as parents. Because, you know, I see so many women who are capable of doing it, but the tax or the toll of becoming a parent puts them in this survival mode, and they don't even realize it until they tap out. And so now you have, you know, 4 to 8 years of, you know, education, all these years of experience in the workplace, but because you're trapped in this cycle, you don't recognize it until someone brings it to your attention, because you're just surviving.
Exactly.
And I hear that from, you know, so many people's comments, and it kind of pinged my mind when Jennifer just told her story. Okay, now back to what you said. I'm sorry. That was just like my
No, absolutely. I think, you know, part of why, you know, in my work, we often hear that women don't ask for help is that we have been cultured to believe that that is what our value is in. It's all the way that we help, that we achieve, that we succeed, that we play the superwoman role. And then, to your point, we get to this point where we just tap out, right? We either get sick, or we're dealing with intense depression and anxiety, because our adrenal glands have now completely been obliterated and we have nothing left to give. Can anybody relate to an experience like that, having a moment like that where you just, boom, you hit the floor?
I don't know who doesn't.
I was going to say,
I mean,
think
it's kind of a give. You know, I had an experience one time, really, really short. I have sleep apnea, and went in, did the testing in the whole 9 yards, and came back 2 days later. The doctor looked at me and says, I brought in a specialist. And I said, okay. And they literally sat down, and the words out of their mouth were, we can't figure out why you're not dead. Because you don't breathe enough. You should be dead. And I just looked at the guys. I'm like, I'm a single mom. I don't have time to be dead. Someone's got to take care of these kids. You know, I'm too stubborn.
There's the quote of the day.
Epitome.
I don't have time to be dead.
I don't have time to die right now.
I don't.
I can schedule you in for, I got a good 55 years, a window opening up. Yeah.
I think all mothers have those stories.
What did you do when you're realizing that, when doctors are telling you that? What did that do to you?
It did nothing to me, because literally, like Janelle said, I was in survival mode. Do what you have to do for me. Give me something where I can breathe at night so I don't die, and move on. I know it sounds simplistic, but everybody takes on different survival modes very differently, depending on what's happening in their life. And both men and women don't know what they're doing until it's too late sometimes. So at that point in time in my life, I didn't really care about myself. I only cared about making sure my kids were going to be okay. I did what they told me to do, and I did it.
Yeah.
You know, I can't argue unless I have somebody who's going to back me up, and I didn't have backup. So I'm now out of survival mode, so it'll be different. But beforehand, I didn't know any different.
Yeah. And asking for help, Lindsay, back to what you originally asked, sadly is perceived as a weakness. And for many women who are working, who are, have that kind of almost type A personality, especially, who think they have it all together, but they really don't, they're not going to ask for the help. And so that's why it's really important to surround yourself with the right people, your own support team, who can be those people that point it out to you, who can bring it to your attention like, hey, let's sit down and talk. Something's going on. I think you need some help. Or people who just jump in, like who can recognize where there are holes in areas in which you need help, whether it's managing the kids, washing the laundry. I mean, I have some great stories of when my kids were little and I maybe only had 2. I had a friend who literally would show up and just start doing laundry. Like she would see the towels, wouldn't even acknowledge whatever, just literally start doing laundry, folding, put them on the couch, and she would leave. That's the kind of support I'm talking about. Because I think we all know laundry is taxing. As you can tell, it's a pain point in my life to this day. But sometimes I actually get emotional now that, the kids are a little older and she now has a family, her kids. And I remind her all the time, like how impactful that actually was. To her, it was like, I just showed up, did some laundry for 2 hours and left. I didn't have anything else to do. I'm like, it was like life-changing though, because she did that. I could cook dinner. I could just sit and nurse the baby on the couch. It just alleviated like this weight that was on my shoulders. So I think asking for help, we have to get around. It's not actually a weakness. It can make you stronger. Identifying the gaps in your life where you need the help and seeking it out is actually a strength. Another stigma we have to start to change the dialogue around.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
How does this show up for fathers? Because I think there's a similar sort of trope in our society about fathers asking for help, but does it have a different flavor, a different nuance to it?
I think, my experience in asking for help has done nothing but help me as a parent, because I think it models so much for my kids that anybody should be able to ask for help, and we all need help. Constantly. There is no way to do it alone, do this life, especially as a parent, especially as somebody working, and especially now where we're in this pandemic, we all are trying to do a million different things at the same time. And even the help of having that Skype call with your friend so the kids can be, I crack up at the friends I have who are singing songs to my kids just so I can finish making dinner, it's just those little things, and it makes such a big difference.
I have to say, their face kind of makes you want to sing. Yesterday, I was like, I was on the verge of just like, twinkle, twinkle.
Oh, yeah. But they've got to see that. They've got to know it takes a community. And as a father, I think, again, you have to be able to model that we all have to ask for help as a parent. And I know something for me as somebody, as an employer, I have, before this started, I had 134 employees. We went all the way down to 11, and now we're building it back up. And the conversations I'm having with my employees as we're bringing people back are really different. And it's definitely taught me a huge lesson as we talk about childcare. As each person's coming back, we're having a conversation with mothers and fathers about what are your childcare needs? How can we figure out your schedule so that we make sure that you're taking care of your family? Now, that's not a question that I necessarily asked every employee or any employee when we were hiring. And now it's really come to light of, wait a second, we've got to make sure we're taking care of everybody and everybody's needs in that family. I think it's a huge growth moment.
Yes.
It takes a village.
Yes, a huge growth. If I'm a business owner and I'm thinking, we're going to return to business as usual after this. There's a story of a business owner. Yeah, tell me why.
It doesn't exist. So the new, you can't say I'm going back to normal, because that's going backwards. Literally backwards in today's world with everything that has happened in the last 6 months. You don't want to go back to normal because look what happened in the last 6 months. So to me, it's more of, and this is what I've read and I've learned, and I'm feeling the same thing. You've got to go back to the new abnormal. And the new abnormal is asking those hard questions. So Nate, good for you for asking those questions, because technically, legally, it's not allowed to ask those questions about your daycare questions and what you have going for you. But being the new abnormal, you're a horrible boss if you don't ask those questions.
Interesting.
And that means you don't care if you don't ask those questions.
Yeah.
So moving forward is literally not going back to where we were in that same plateau, but taking that step above it and that new abnormal and asking those hard questions to make sure everybody is ready to go back. And if you're not comfortable, why are you not comfortable? How can I get you comfortable? And I can work these hours, but I can't work those hours as normal because I have childcare problems, or I have to teach. I don't have a vehicle anymore, or I just don't feel safe, healthy. So moving it back to the new abnormal is going to allow us to not do what we used to do, because look where it got us.
Yes.
And we have to learn to change it up.
Yeah.
Yes. Janelle, can you speak about, when you talk about why even now in our homes, when we're in a Zoom meeting, why we should let our kids run through?
Absolutely. I think you've seen since the beginning of this in early March, I started posting like, stop apologizing for having to hold your child, for having to step away and pour some juice, because it actually adds more stress and anxiety trying to manage all of that while working, especially when it's becoming everybody's new normal. It's so funny. I was on a call with an investor who shared this story. They were all on this like important Zoom meeting with C-level attorneys, top law firms in the country. And there were literally two guys sitting in a closet, hiding, like top execs. I will not even say their names. They're literally sitting in a closet with their laptop on their knees, with the door shut, and everyone could tell because it was like that closed-in sound. They sounded like they were in a space. And one man literally had pants on the side of him, like he had spread the pants and backed into it. And it definitely broke the ice, and everybody was like, dude, get out the closet, like literally come out of the closet and sit wherever you need to sit, and we can all function, because it's just stressful. I mean, and when we talk about going backwards, and then one of the reasons I said I shook my head, because I think people are feeling the pain who were originally slow to innovate. So one of the big industries that's feeling that pain is education. If you look at various school systems, those that were already doing virtual, had virtual setup, they had platforms where teachers could work online. They pivoted like within 2 weeks. Those who weren't, who didn't have devices for all students, who, everyone wasn't on laptops, I've heard stories of where it took them 4 to 5 weeks to even pull it together to figure out what they were going to do next. So I think the past and people's, hesitant to get online, to do social media, to get on Zoom, to be involved in webinars, they've now had to learn it by fire, unfortunately. Yeah. But sometimes that's the best way for change to happen in order for everybody to get on board with new things and innovation. So it's been interesting, but I say, don't apologize for how you have to work. I love that Nat is asking those questions. Most employees still aren't there, even though people's situations are different. Especially, we know for at least the next 24 months, schools aren't going back to normal. Everyone's decided if they're going back, if they're doing virtual learning, if they're doing 2 days a week, and what that looks like. So for all adults, that's going to impact them. Some people still aren't, daycares in some places aren't open. So it's important for employers to consider all of that when they're figuring out how to manage schedules and, workloads and that sort of thing. Those are very important questions.
Yes. I have to tell you, now that I know that I'm going to be teaching primary school for the next couple of years, my kids said to me, why are we just having this class for us, Mommy? Why don't we have this class for kids all over the world? So I may be teaching your kids some art lessons pretty soon.
Sign them up and send me the link.
Nat, I'm a restaurateur, I'm just imagining there are so many abnormal things that you're trying to couple with coming out of this. What's your advice for somebody who really does have a business that is very much about that face-to-face, about coming into a space together? because you can't really have your best server coming in virtually, or can you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the challenge. In a, some businesses are much easier to jump online to do virtually. Restaurants are not. Restaurants are that piece where it is that face-to-face connection. It is, it requires us to be on site. And I mean, it really is just that. I mean, we joke, but it's that flexibility, right? It's about being flexible, recognizing that things aren't going to be the same, and they probably never will be. But thinking especially about the next 24 months and really looking at, whether it's pivoting to go and delivery, which we did at one of our locations. We have a grab and go counter, and we were like, okay, well, we're going to put plexiglass up, and we're going to, how do we change our interactions with guests so that they feel safe, we feel safe. And then again, it really comes down to our staff. That's our team, and how do we take care of them during this time? And so for us, that meant that we were cooking hot meals for our staff twice a week, so that they could come. They knew that they were going to be able to come grab hot meals, bring home, because again, sometimes you just don't have time to cook for your whole family, even though there's this idea of oh, well, people aren't employed, but you are employed because you're now a teacher to your kids. We've taken on so many more things. So for us, it was this piece of how can we make life just this much easier during this for our staff, and taking that mindset that we've had for the last 3 months, and as we reopen again, thinking again about, well, how do we take care of the team, how do we take care of the staff going forward, and making sure that this is going to work for everybody.
I'm thinking about one of the when we talk about the culture or the personality of our country, one of the personality vices that we struggle with in our country is pride. And not pride in the sense that I just take pride in my work, but pride in the sense that my pride gets in the way of allowing me to receive. And so for that viewer at home who's out there and they're going, the idea of just receiving help, that's going against everything that I believe. I'm supposed to be able to pull myself up by my bootstraps. And one of my favorite comics, it's by an Australian comic named Lunig, and he has a picture of a person and they're out asking for money and they're saying saving up for bootstraps. How do we ourselves get through the block around not receiving help, about the idea that if we receive help from our employer or from a friend, that somehow we are less than?
I would say start asking questions. So one of the things I recognize in just going to conferences and events and listening to speakers and having real personal one-on-one conversations with individuals, I always ask them about their mentors, regardless of how senior they are, what industry they're in, because I know they didn't honestly do it by themselves. Even when people have this, I came from this story and God had to do this, but who helped you do that? Because you didn't honestly always do it alone. There was I always say there's people on your shoulders, whispering in your ears, giving you some sort of advice. So when we look at whatever your definition of success is, people received help. And you will find if you ask people, if you get in the habit of asking people that question, you'll notice it's actually a trend. More and more people who are entrepreneurs, who are in the C-suite, who, are successful in their careers in their home, they actually do have some sort of help. They've asked for help. They see a therapist on a regular basis, whether it's a mobile therapist. I joke now, I love that one of my neighbors is a phenomenal therapist and we do like morning walks. You need help. So you got to put the pride to the side. And I think the more we talk about it, I love that you even asked the question, Lindsay. It's probably a question you should ask in every session, discussion you do, because the more we talk about it, the more okay it is,
Yes.
Thank you. You're going back to the new abnormal. The new abnormal is literally, I need help.
That's it. Yeah.
And I talk a lot about that. I work a lot with the transitioning military into the civilian world. And some of them are, it's embedded in their head that they're so used in the military, everybody helps everybody. But now I'm not in the military, who do I go to? So, and granted, the military has a huge following and help as many people as possible, but there's still some people who have that pride, like you said, Lindsay, that I don't know how to do it. I should not do it. I've been told I should fend for myself. And now it's just getting that message out of, if you don't ask for help, it won't get you anywhere.
Right.
And giving them that permission of literally asking, I need help. And in the career side, when people ask me, how do I do that? I go, you go on LinkedIn and your subject line says, I need your help. And I don't know anybody who's not going to respond when you put that on your subject line of, I need your help. And the more you share that and the more that message comes out, the more we spread that, the better off we're going to be. I mean, Nate, you've got it right now. Your employees are coming to you, say, hey, I need help, but thank you for working with me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're going to have to do. And it's not necessarily leaving your pride at home. You can have all the pride in the world, but asking for help is not prideful. It's just intelligence.
Bingo.
Yeah.
It's common sense.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a parent watching this right now. There's a parent watching this right now who is really just at the end of their rope. They've been, you use this language of code switching in this circumstance to mean switching from parenting to work to, gardening to putting in appliances to whatever else, taking care of an elderly parent to trying to find the mask because you need to get to the store. They're in the midst of that right now, today, and they're feeling really low. Nat, what do you want to say to them?
I mean, first of all, you're doing an amazing job. This is not easy.
Mm-hmm.
It is so hard. And I don't think we give ourselves as parents enough credit for how hard all of this is on a normal day, right? Now you've added all these new layers to it. And we're also used to being able to see all of these other people, whether it's family, whether it's friends, we're used to seeing more people or getting to take our kids to the park and play at the park. None of that's available to us now. So, I would just say, hey, we've got to give ourselves a huge pat on the back as parents and know that we are doing our absolute best. And our kids know that. They really do. And it is those little moments of asking for help. I mean, and I use the example of literally just calling a friend and being like, I just need you to do Wheels on the Bus with these kids for 5 minutes.
I got you from now on. I got
I
you.
feel like now I need to Zoom with him and sing something to the babies. I have to now.
I can do Twinkle Twinkle in sign language for you.
They will love it. It is their favorite. And it's like just giving yourselves that permission to know that, we all have to ask for help. We all need help. And even if it's something as little as 5 minutes of Wheels on the Bus or Twinkle Twinkle, it just is that moment of stress relief. And it's hugely helpful.
Lindsay, can I say something? Oh, go ahead, Janelle.
I was going to say really quick, we also have that level of our past. We've had schedules throughout the day. Kids are at school, adults are at work. We see family members on weekends, things like that. We quickly, and I mentioned this before, transition to being with our families 24 hours a day, around the clock for at least 3 months. Which alone, I love the fact that he was, cooking some meals and delivering to employees. Because at the beginning of this, I was cooking 3 hot meals a day for the kids and working. It's like I added this level of expectation onto myself between like, don't touch your face, wash your hands. If you step outside, take off your shoes, mop the floor. It was just so much to the point I had to recognize it. So I think when you're, as parents, as we're doing all this, you have to step back and say, what? They were not eating 3 hot meals a day before this. What the heck am I doing?
Yes.
Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and some chips and sit down and fix it yourself. If you can walk and you can reach a cabinet, now it's time for you to learn how to fix your own meal. And my husband even said, like, what are you doing? Like, why are you cooking so much? Like, I had an Instacart order coming like every other day. So give yourself permission, step back, practice grace within yourself and say, wait,
Oh my goodness.
I'm
You
doing
should, like, I look back in my Instagram feed a few months ago where I was like, LGHJ Academy, and I had these mapped out time frames, 1 hour, and then thank goodness somebody sent me a message and they were like, primary kids, they do about 1 hour of focused learning a day. And I was like,
you had a full schedule,
full schedule, yes. Jennifer, what were you gonna say?
I kind of want to go back to your original about the person who's watching right now who's at their wit's end. And what do I do? To me, I would say it's okay to have a pity party. Go for it. No one is judging you. Don't even judge yourself. Give yourself permission to have that 5, 10 minute, an hour pity party and take that break for yourself. Don't take days and weeks on your pity party, but when you need to have that, what the hell am I doing? What am I going through? And why am I doing this? Accept it. Go through it. It's okay. It's definitely okay to feel sorry for yourself right now. And you don't have to be strong. It's one of the worst words in the English language as a woman. As a single mom, if someone else tells me, oh, you're so strong, I'm going to hurt them. It's like, no, I'm really not that strong. Like, stop saying that. Thank you for saying that. But I don't feel so strong. I feel like I'm not doing this right. I feel like I'm not doing that right. So that person who's at their wit's end, take that 5 minutes, go eat your Ben and Jerry's, have that pity party, but then look at yourself in the mirror and do that check. I'm like, okay, that was good. Now I'm going to move on. But give yourself permission to take that pity when you need it. Don't dwell on it because you'll get trapped. But give yourself that 5 minutes or even that half hour, and then you can move on. And that's super important that people acknowledge that instead of trying to push yourself through or do the acceptance. And I can't talk for anybody. You all have your kids at home. I wish I still had mine at home sometimes. But I'm watching a lot of people go through it. And I'm just saying, just do it. Eat your ice cream. Go for it.
Eating ice cream at 10 a.m., I definitely approve of right now on all levels. And, you know, I think what's been so wonderful as a practice, and I want to hear other ways that you might be doing something similar, is that I've been scheduling in these moments to just get up from my laptop, from my desk, and just go walk around my garden barefoot and just put my feet on the ground, which is something that I could never have done in the old normal and now feels like such a gift. What are some of the gifts that you have been finding in this time, in this unique moment?
I would say, and this goes back to giving yourself permission, as Jennifer was saying, I will actually, and I think this is important for employers to embrace, and I've encouraged and advised my clients to do the same. If you have a meeting scheduled or there's a call you have to get on with a group of people, if you're going through something in that moment, if one of your children are dealing with something that you need to address in that moment, it's okay to tell people that. It's okay to say, look, I cannot participate in this meeting right now. Circle back. Can you tell me via email? Like literally, and my staff always say, I love this about you is that you are straightforward. I have gotten on staff calls and like, look, we're about to hang up because I thought I had the time, but I really don't right now because X, Y, and Z. I'll circle back via email. We'll figure this out later. But because I'm transparent and upfront and honest with how I'm feeling, what's going on in my life, it gives other people permission and my staff permission to also do the same. And when they do it, we all embrace it and recognize it. Girl, go take care of that. Shoot us an email later on this afternoon. We can hop back on a call at 2. People need to get comfortable around that. I'm actually advising vice presidents who have, bosses and supervisors who are afraid to manage up and talk about the emotions. It's important to do so. If we're talking about mental health and managing that going forward, people need to give themselves permission to talk about how they're feeling.
Yeah. What about you? What have been some of the unique blessings and joys in this moment?
I mean, it's a small one, but a fun one. And just that, we used to kind of be so activity based with our kids of like, okay, we were going to go to the zoo and we're going to have this educational moment and our kids are tiny. I mean, they're 2.5, but we kept wanting to have all these experiences with them. And now the experiences, I cannot tell you how many times I have walked around our block with and they now have their tiny strollers and they're so excited and they want to stop at every rock and every leaf and we have met so many of our neighbors because we just do these laps around our block, and it's the sweetest thing. I mean, we knew a couple of them, but now we know the people 2 blocks back and we know the people 3 blocks over because our world has shrunk so much. And our kids now they get to say hello to all these people that I didn't know before. And usually I would be rushing them because we want to get to the next thing, or we got to get in the car, we got to go here. And now it's just like, great, well, let's look at this leaf. Let's just look at it for 10 minutes. Tell me all about what you think about this leaf. So.
No, actually, the Seattle Times had done an excellent treasure hunt. And it was, you were meant to go out and find all of these things in your community. Mm-hmm. And it was one of those moments where I really realized, wow, I haven't been outdoors in a couple of days, because you should have seen Mommy on this treasure hunt. I found the rock! The rock! No! And they were like, wow, Mom. You're here. It's just bring it back a little bit. But, to your point, we have lived in this neighborhood for ages, and we just discovered one of our neighbors is a harpist. And she sits out front and plays the harp in this angelic garden. And we've been having these little concerts of 30, me and my 2 Who's from Whoville. It's magical. Jennifer, how about you?
I've always been pretty friendly on my walks or something like that when I'm out and about. But now I go out of my way. No matter who you pass, no matter who I'm waving hi, I'm saying hi. I was on a bike ride in Minnesota 2 days ago. Yes, I traveled. And my sister thought I was just crazy. I was having so much fun on my bike ride, literally waving hello and saying hi to every single solitary person I passed. And every person that I said it to literally said hello back or waved hi. And the smiles that were on their face was so wonderful to see. And that my hope is that we still get outside and we still walk. We still get our neighbors out. If we end up going back to work a little bit more and more, but enjoy the weather, go outside, wave, say hi. When I go on my walks, I sing out loud because I can. But then when I see somebody and I'm walking, I will say hello and they will get that gesture from me. And just those little things, because little things mean more than the big things, right? It's those little things that mean so much. Someone said hello to me. Someone smiled at me. And I think if we can continue to do that, it makes you feel better as well. Because you're having that contact. I live by myself. I work by myself. I'm by myself 99.9% of the time until I go out. And so when I go out, I take advantage of it. And I connect with everybody the best way social distancing will allow you.
Yes. Yeah. It's been interesting too. I find, I think of all the things that my little humans could be learning in primary school, and at least for this semester, they've learned how to do all the laundry. So I'll be sending them to your house, Janelle, to help.
Needs the help.
Well, yeah, I got babysitters for you. That's for sure. They've been cooking, they've been out gardening, they have been learning all of these life skills, and watching how that has given them a sense of joy and a sense of accomplishment as they contribute to the household. What do we think is the opportunity there for families to start rethinking, from a very young age, little people can actually contribute to their home?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I always talk about this. I think at this point, my kids can pitch my business better than I can, because they've heard so many Zoom calls and and normally when I'm at home, I'm sitting at the dining room table, they are on the other side of the laptop. So they're literally looking at me while I'm working. So I think the life skills, the work skills, they're all gathering from seeing their parents who have to work from home. We can't put a price on that, because if you would have asked them before exactly what is this business about, exactly what does my mom do, they probably could have given you a couple of talking points. But now I probably could turn it over to them for a day, and they can handle all of my clients, my pictures, all that good stuff.
They're moving things in a slide deck.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. What about you, Jennifer and Nat? Do you think that we have this opportunity to really teach our kids some skills that have maybe not been as common lately?
I mean, practical learning, it makes so much sense. And I think our kids are at this age where just giving them a tiny sponge and having them wipe their table, they're just so proud. I mean, they're so proud of getting the table clean. They're so proud of, they're now tall enough to put their tiny plate into the sink. And it's like their favorite part of breakfast, frankly. It's like putting their plate in the sink, because it's like that sense of accomplishment that they can do it. And at 2.5, like those are the big moments for them. That's the big excitement, to feel like they can help and they can do something. And I will say they're not the best laundry folders, but they love playing with laundry.
It may not get better. By the time it's 17, it still may not be even better. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get the Recondo going. The role.
Exactly. Life skills are more important than book skills. I mean, being book smart is great, but if you're street smart and life smart, it's going to take you further than anything else. And that 2.5-year-old and your 13 and your 8-year-old and your 5-year-old, Lindsay, they're all going to learn skills that are going to take them further in life than if they went to school full time, because they can actually take care of themselves. And what better parent is there if you know that you've set your kids up so they can take care of themselves?
Yeah, I have to say, the other day we were walking around and I gave my daughter one of my old phones to play with. And I was actually just telling the producers of the show this yesterday. She was on her phone having a meeting and she's going like this to me. She's going, yeah. Really? Yeah. Okay, I'll call you back. Love you too, babe. What is it, Mom? Is that how it sounds on the phone? But they're watching and they're learning, and I think for all that we're often talking about how this has uprooted our lives, this experience, it needed to be uprooted, right? We needed to have a little bit of something that was just going to completely throw our paradigm out of whack, to give us the opportunity to reimagine what was possible. To wrap it up today, I'd love to hear from each of you. What would you like us to imagine to be possible as we rethink the role of women and the invisible burden that they've often had to carry? What do you imagine could be possible?
I'm going to go first because you all have kids at home and everything else. And I'm not the one who has to go through it anymore. But I want everyone to imagine that change is a 6-letter word, and it's a positive word. Change is never negative. And the more you accept it and allow that in your life, no matter what you're going through, you're going to have just a little bit more of your shoulders relaxing and your mind relaxing, and allow yourself to kind of bring in a little bit more that you didn't think was going to happen. Find your village, find your help, ask for your help, and know that when things are going backwards, to say to yourself, change. Change is inevitable. We've already just seen it. We're all going through it. Embrace it. Don't fight it. Those are my words of what you need to do.
Nat and Janelle, I don't know how you're going to follow that. We might just end the show.
There you go. That's it. Done.
This is from the old half of the group, right? The old one.
In a rocking chair.
The only other thing I would add to that is know that you can do more than survive. You can truly thrive, even through change. It's one of the things I always say, because I feel like so many parents, especially women, are in this just survival mode, just trying to make it. But you can truly thrive with the right help and support system. You can do it.
Yeah. Just expand on that quickly, because I'd love to just hear the language that you use about having your board of directors.
I'm I'm a big believer, and regardless of what your role is, you know, in your career, what level you're at, everyone should create their own board of directors. And it's made up of a diverse group of people who do not look like you, who are parents, who aren't parents, who are in different industries, to who you can go to and talk to about your career and your personal life. And just like a kind of a company functions, these people rotate, you know, as you grow in your life, as your kids get older, as your career change, their role may also change. But it's to have this group of people that you know you can go to, whether it's you're trying to get a promotion at work, you have something going on with one of your teenagers at school where it's impacting how you are actually productive at work. Somebody you can talk to about both. I think too many times, you know, we have a mentor where we only can talk to about work things. But as we know, home impacts work. And I'm a true believer in having people around you who can advise you and support you in your role as both a parent and a worker. So I think creating that board of directors and how you do it is very important.
Thank you.
You're
Yeah.
welcome.
Nat, how about for
I
you?
don't know how to follow those two up, but I would just say, you know, really, you know, as for me, one of the big growth pieces has just been really recognizing what does it mean to be a parent, and that we have all of these preconceived notions of what a mother should be and what a father should be. And my hope is that in this time, so many people, by being home and seeing just how hard childcare is, seeing how much it takes, you know, day in, day out, that as a culture, as a community, we have just so much more, just our ability to understand it and realize that as a community, we all have to help and all have to support, and that it's okay for a parent to ask for help. And as a friend, as an employer, as a partner, that we have to offer that help up, that we have to be there and work with people to make sure that we're taking care of everybody.
Yes. Yes. Janelle Lynch, Jennifer Master, Nat Stratton-Clark, thank you so much for joining me on the virtual couch today for another amazing episode of Keeping It Real. Afterwards, anybody out there in virtual land, if you want to join us for a good canon round robin of singing to Nat's children, you can stick on with us on Facebook. But our wish for all of you out there who are just in that moment of feeling a little bit run down, a little bit tired, is that you know that this community is here to support you as always, and that you are not in it alone. You are not in it alone. See you next week.